Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today the Green Bay Packers have beat the Cleveland Browns in preseason 23-10. Great win for the Packers to start off preseason, as the Green Bay Packers starters did play one drive, and it was a very successful drive as Jordan Love went out there and threw a 65-yard touchdown bomb to Dontavion Wicks. So those two guys picked up right where they left off in the 2023 season by getting a touchdown on their first possession, scoring in the first 1 minute and 22 seconds. The Packers win the ball game 23-10. Let's go over the scoring summary. So Packers win 23-10. First quarter, there was two scores. The Jordan Love touchdown pass to Dontavion Wicks for 65 yards. Carlson would make the extra point to make it 7-0. How about Cade York? This is the third kicker so far to start off the preseason with their first kick being a bomb. Cade York with a 55-yarder. Jason Sanders' first kick of the preseason was a 58-yarder. And then, funny enough, Anders Carlson, brother, Anders Carlson's brother, Daniel Carlson, had I believe it was a 55 or 56-yard field goal in his first attempt today. Some kickers started off in a nice way to start off the preseason, but Cade York knocks one in from 55 yards to make it 7-3. And then in the second quarter, you have Emmanuel Wilson with a 5-yard touchdown run to make it 14-3. And then Anders Carlson with a 46-yard field goal to make it 17-3. And then for the Packers, I believe, former Browns kicker, I know he was on the Vikings, but Greg Joseph knocks in a 35-yard field goal to make it 20-3. And then Anders Carlson makes another field goal. This one's from 33 yards to make it 23-3. And then a Aiden Robbins 1-yard touchdown run. Cade York makes the extra point. It's 23-10. All right, let's go over game leader. Sean Clifford, second-year quarterback, led the Packers in passing yards, throwing 10 for 19, 111 passing yards, while Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw 14 for 18 and 134 passing yards for the Browns. Rushing yards, Manuel Wilson had 13 carries for 67 rushing yards with one touchdown, while Kelly Jr. for the Browns had 4 carries for 15 rushing yards. The Browns were not very active in the run game in this game. Receiving yards, Grant DeBose had 5 receptions for 66 receiving yards for the Packers, while Jamari Trash had 3 receptions for 43 receiving yards for the Cleveland Browns. I remember covering him a little bit last year with Louisville. Last year, I did, a couple times talk about Louisville, when they would play, because they most of the time were a ranked team. They had a quarterback in Plummer who was playing pretty good. They had a running back in Jawar Jordan, funny enough, who's now playing for my favorite team, the Houston Texans, who was playing really good. So I talked about them a lot, covering college football games last year. So I remember, talking about him and watching him a little bit. I didn't really watch Louisville a lot last year, mainly just talked about their games, but I did watch them a couple times. Very solid wide receiver, and, definitely first preseason game was pretty good with 3 receptions for 43 receiving yards. All right, let's go over some other stats in this game. Jordan Love, 2 for 2 with 63 passing yards with 1 passing touchdown. Even though he threw a 65-yard touchdown pass, his first completion was a negative, was a negative 2 receive. It was a pass to someone, and they went backwards for -2 receiving yards. And I can't remember who he threw the ball to. They got -2. It was Josh Jacobs that he threw the ball to. And then, literally the next play, he throws a 65-yard touchdown pass to Dontavion Wicks. But he threw 2 for 2 with 63 passing yards. Then Michael Pratt, former Tulane quarterback, right? Yeah, I believe so. The only reason I know that is because my grandfather's a Tulane fan. He went to Tulane for school. But 5 for 7, 46 passing yards. You want to go to the Browns quarterbacks. The other quarterbacks outside Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I'm sure for potential Ravens fans watching this game, it had to see, had to feel weird to see Tyler Huntley in the Browns uniform. He threw 6 for 9, 41 passing yards as he switched sides. So many AFC North players going to division rivals this year. Well, there were a lot of other, players in other divisions that stayed in the same division but switched teams. It happened a lot this offseason. Jameis Winston, 4 for 5 with 30 passing yards for the Cleveland Browns. He played their first drive and looked pretty good on their first drive, and I don't think they scored on that first drive. Actually, I think they did score a field goal on their first drive. I think that was the Cade York field goal. Winston threw 30 passing yards. All right, outside of John Kelly Jr. getting 4 carries for 15 rushing yards for the Browns. Also, Pierre Strong Jr. had 6 carries for 15 rushing yards, while Tyler Huntley had 2 carries for 13 rushing yards. Jerome Ford had 2 carries for 4 rushing yards for the Packers. Outside of Emmanuel Wilson, Jervon Howard had 8 carries for 44 rushing yards. Josh Jacobs had 1 carry in his first game as a Packer with 7 rushing yards. Not a bad carry for Josh Jacobs. He's going to be very interesting. But he also had a reception that was for negative yards. And then also A.J. Dillon had 4 carries for 2 rushing yards, so that's not great. Went over Grant Dubose. Dontavion Wicks had that 1 reception for 65-yard touchdown that I mentioned. Outside of that, Josh Jacobs had the 1 reception, negative 2 yards. Bo Melton had 1 reception for 12 yards. Malik Heath had 2 receptions for 22 receiving yards. Outside of that, that was kind of it in this game for the Packers receiving. For the Browns, outside of Jamari Trash, Jordan Akins had 2 receptions for 25 receiving yards. Michael Woods II had 2 receptions for 22 receiving yards. Zaire Michael Patton had 3 receptions for 20 receiving yards. I'm going to go over a couple more. John Kelly Jr. was effective in the run game. He was also effective in the receiving game with 5 receptions for 19 receiving yards. We'll go over 2 more as James Prochet II had 1 reception for 17 receiving yards, and Pierre Strong Jr. had 2 receptions for 10 receiving yards. Now, fumbles. There was 1 fumble lost by the Browns, which was the only fumble lost in the game, was by John Kelly Jr., and it was recovered by Christian Welch. Now, the Packers did lose 1 fumble. Well, they didn't lose a fumble, but they had a fumble with Sean Clifford, and it was recovered by Bo Melton. That's it for fumbles. Defensive stats, Evan Williams led the Packers in tackles with 6 tackles, but a total of 3 players had 6 tackles on the Packers, while as a team they had 3 sacks, 1 for former first-round pick Luke Van Ness, 1 for Colby Wooden, and the other went to Spencer Waggy. The Browns had a total of 1 sack, which went to Brady Breeze, and Brady Breeze also led them in tackles by a huge margin with 11, and they had 5 tackles for loss as a team. So yeah, good defensive performance by this Cleveland Browns team outside of giving up 23 points to the Packers. No interceptions in this game though. But this is not the normal defense that you're going to see for the Cleveland Browns. But for these being the probably you could say second, third, fourth, fifth team guys, you're not seeing any starters on the Cleveland Browns defense. I thought the defense looked pretty good, even though they gave it 23 points. And 7 of those points was going up against the Packers starters. So I really count, if you're going to look at a defensive performance, I don't really count that touchdown right there. Obviously it happened, but those are second, third team guys going up against a starting group right there. A starting group that just won a playoff game last year, just almost knocked off the 49ers in the divisional round. So obviously the touchdown happened. They gave up the touchdown, but they really don't have a second, third, and fourth team guys really don't stand a chance going up against Jordan Love in that starting offense. So yeah. Let me know your thoughts on the Packers getting the win 23-10 in the comment section, and peace out.